Prof, thank you so much for joining us. You did put in a lot of time being very smart for this interview. Let's get straight to the issues. What are the underlying causes of the ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and how can regional stakeholders and players work together to address these particular issues?
Very much. Let us remember that the problem in Eastern Congo has a long history. And that long history is one that must be properly understood. Some say that it emanates from the arbitrary drawing of boundaries which have separated peoples. And you know that there are those who have argued that those who are in Congo are now described sometimes as Banyamulenge are not Congolese. But when you look at history, these are people who make the claim, which is possibly supportable by other extant evidence that they are actually Congolese. There is also the argument from the Kinshasa administration that the Rwandan administration is supporting M23. But I believe that the history must be properly understood if we are to have long-term solution to the problem. The problem that we have now is that history is understood differently from Kinshasa and differently from Rwanda and differently from those who are in Congo and who are asserting the fact that they are Congolese. And the issues, therefore, must be handled at several levels. Number one is the immediate solution in order to pose the conflict. You now know that we are talking at a time when the Kinshasa administration has already severed diplomatic ties with Rwanda. We also know that there have been several attempts at negotiation, the Luanda process in Angola, the Nairobi process. We've also had suggestion by President Erdogan of Turkey that he wants to mediate. And we also know that the chair of East African Community, President Ruto of Kenya, has invited President Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame to be in Nairobi latest on Wednesday to discuss the problem. But there are those who say that you cannot discuss the problem in the absence of the combatants themselves, namely the leadership of M23. So the question is, the house is on fire. What do we do to de-escalate the situation? I hope that both presidents will attend the Nairobi meeting on Wednesday, but in the short to medium term, I expect that the East African leaders will convene an emergency meeting of heads of states and government in Arusha. And at that meeting, a process of mediation, which in my view, should be conducted by the heads of states themselves. And at that meeting, the Kinshasa administration should know that you cannot shave a person in his absence, meaning that the M23 and other combatants in Eastern Congo must be negotiated with directly. Otherwise, we'll be applying Panadol and aspirin to what is a cancerous problem. That is my view, and I hope that those in power will look at it from that perspective. Let us also remember that the Democratic Republic of Congo is a member of SADC who are intimately involved in that region. It may be wise that at the Arusha meeting, the SADC representatives are also present so that everybody is reading from the same page. Because if that is not done and done quickly, then we are going to have an escalation which will be detrimental to the entire region. And nobody wants a full-scale war in this region or indeed any part of the continent of Africa. Unfortunately, the African Union, which would have been very useful in this situation, always never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. But I hope that this time round, the African Union will come in very quickly and also help in the effort to de-escalate and to midwife a process that will lead to permanent peace. That is my hope and prayer.
Prof, some argue, whether rightly or wrongly, that the other part of the problem is the fact that Congo is laden with significant natural resources, including minerals and timber. Hence, the fact that there are many players, some foreign, in here. How can a country with such natural resources and wealth manage and exploit those in such a way that they benefit the Congolese people, as opposed to fueling conflict?
My own view has always been that there is interest among several players that Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, remains unstable. Because if it remains unstable, then she can be exploited without consequence. If you look at the kind of activities that go on in that place, there are those who actually say that there are over 120 armed groups who are mercenaries deployed by different players from outside of the continent of Africa. And if you look at the infrastructure in Congo, and you look at the connection between Kinshasa and Eastern Congo, it does not allow for proper control. So you have a center in Kinshasa, which is in very limited control of her territory. And this has come about because of the poor leadership that we have had in that country. So it is true that there are many players, and these players are interested in an unstable Democratic Republic of Congo, which is then a good candidate for exploitation. And that is what legitimizes a proper and strategic intervention, not only by the East African region, but also by the African Union, and in my view, the international community through the agency of the UN, which has been present there through MONUSCO. But unfortunately, many of these bodies find themselves in a very neutered position because their mandate is always to be on a defensive posture rather than to enforce peace. And this, in my view, is something that ought to be re-examined going forward.
Thank you, Professor Patrick Loch Otieno Lumumba.